The following is an exclusive presentation of Jessup Broadcasting, the sports leader in Southeast Georgia.
World famous. The world famous Butch and Bob Show.
Yes, it is the world-famous Butch and Bob Show right here on WIFO, 105.5 FM in Jessup, Big Dog Country Radio. The time now is 8 o'clock. And, Bob, as promised, we got a very special guest on the air this morning with us.
Yeah, I was able to text Buddy the day that all took place. He texted me back. I just wanted to make sure he was okay and safe, and that's the good news. First of all, Buddy, appreciate you being here. I know it's been a hectic couple of days up in Washington, D.C., but appreciate you calling in and being with us here on the show. But first of all, you are safe, right? You were able to get away from all that craziness on last Wednesday.
Yeah, we were, Bob. And I tell you, first of all, I want to thank everyone for all their concern. And it really does mean a lot. It was really a surreal moment. Never really felt that much in danger, to be quite honest with you. But it was a mixture of emotions for me personally. It was surreal. It was as if I was in a movie or something, and just couldn't believe it was happening. But then, when I gathered everything together, it just made me mad as hell. I mean, it just really made me angry that this was happening and that they were doing this. And all I could do was just shout and tell them, stop. Of course, they couldn't hear me. But I was one of the last ones to leave. I have some friends up there who actually, were trying to help the police barricade the door and actually, carrying furniture up there. We were helping them to block the doors. And then, of course, they let us out and let us through the tunnels and to a secure location. And we were fine after that. I mean, we were all together. It's one of the bigger rooms where we went in the Capitol, and all of us were together, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, all in the same room, and all trying to encourage everyone and each other. But it was definitely an experience, I can tell you that.
No doubt. We have a lot of questions, but the first question I've got is, how does this happen, buddy? I mean, it's the U.S. Capitol. Apparently, from all reports, they had warnings that there were going to be protesters, and why weren't they prepared? Where was the breakdown at? Who's at fault for not being able to protect the U.S. Capitol? Well,
first of all, as I'm sure a lot of people know, the Sergeant-at-Arms has been fired. Sergeant-at-Arms from the House. The Capitol Hill, the police chief of the Capitol Hill Police is resigning in the next week or so. They were not prepared. At the top level, it was really unfortunate because they were nowhere near as prepared as they should have been. Now, I have to say that the Capitol Hill Police, the individual policemen, did an outstanding job, and I just cannot say enough good things about them. They were just as professional and just as great as they could have been, but it was obvious that the planning was not there. And it's so ironic now because the next day, I mean, there were just police everywhere, barricades everywhere. And I was just thinking, boy, y'all are late to the party. I mean, this is, this was happening yesterday. This should have been done 3 days ago. But they were ill-prepared and heads are rolling now, so to speak. And I believe in the Senate also, maybe Sergeant-at-Arms is gone, or at least the Capitol Hill Police Chief, as I say, I know is gone. But it was poor planning. The president said that he had called for 10,000 National Guard troops the day before. And I don't know what happened, but obviously they weren't there. And then there was trouble, getting them there once they were called out.
You mentioned in your press release that says this type of behavior has no place in our society. Those responsible should be prosecuted to the full extent of law. I saw more and more arrests are taking place. Do you think all those people that did what they did will be held accountable and will be prosecuted?
Well, I think a lot of them will. I do, and they should be. Listen, I condemn that kind of action. It was stupidity at the epitome of stupidity, and it has no place in our society at all. Now, I will tell you, I do have some strong feelings about, you have to separate the issue that we were debating, having a civil debate on. You have to separate it from the actions of a few. We witnessed that this past summer. We saw our major metropolitan cities, Minneapolis, Portland, that were destroyed with riots, and they were destroyed because they were protesting social injustice, Black Lives Matters. All those issues still remain, and they're still important. The certification of the electors is the same thing. That's an important issue. Voter integrity is an important issue, and you have to separate that from the actions of a few. And for those who say, well, it's different because the Capitol is a sacred place. The Capitol is a sacred place. I agree with that. It's an honor and a privilege to be up there. I have a great reverence and respect for the Capitol. However, I will tell you, as a businessman and a business person for over 32 years, my business, my life and blood was a sacred place for me. So to have that destroyed in Minneapolis or in Portland, I think is just as bad as somebody destroying the Capitol. Now, two wrongs don't make a right. We all know that. They're all wrong. It was wrong in Minneapolis, it was wrong in Portland, it was wrong in Washington. But the issues still remain, and voter integrity is an important issue that is important to many citizens throughout our country and in the 1st District. And I think we've got to continue to focus on that.
Reports are that this was just round one. They're going to be protests at every state capitol. I saw the FBI warning. Do you think this is going to take place again, and will they be more prepared this time around?
Well, I've read that and I've heard that as well, that they're going to be protesting at the state capitals. I hope that they'll be prepared, and I suspect they will. The old saying, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And they need to be prepared, and I'm sure they will be. I can tell you the Capitol is prepared. It is barricaded now, and I don't think we're going to have any more trouble. And look, I don't have any problem with people coming to Washington, D.C. and protesting. I don't have any problem with people going and protesting in Minneapolis or in Portland. But when it turns to violence, when it turns to rioting, when it turns to destruction, then you cross the line. You mentioned those being identified at the Capitol, and I hope they are identified. And I will tell you, the Capitol Hill Police have some good equipment. Their body cams, and they are making a lot of good progress at identifying these people who did breach the Capitol and who did get in. And they're going to identify them, and they're going to get them, and they're going to arrest them. And I hope they do, and I hope that they will prosecute them to the full extent of the law, and I hope they go to jail, because that's where they belong.
I just hope they find the people responsible for killing that police officer. That was the saddest thing I saw, was the death of a police officer. And from all reports, he was, his head was bashed in with a fire extinguisher. And, I just hope they find those people and charge those people with murder.
Well, and they should be. And there's no question about it. Obviously, from what I understand, there was one of the protesters hit him with a fire extinguisher. He seemed to be okay, went back to his office and had an aneurysm and died. We, of course, had another police officer who tragically killed himself after the fact, after this was over with. We had another person who was shot, a 14-year Air Force veteran who was protesting, and in the Capitol, she was shot and killed. There were 2 other people who died as a result of medical emergencies during the protest, and that's what people have to keep in mind, is that these kind of things do get out of control, and they can happen.
And if you're just joining us, Congressman Buddy Carter on the phone with us from Washington, D.C. I guess the inauguration is, 8 days away? People wondered if there is going to be a peaceful transition. How do you see that playing out?
I think there will be. The president has said we're going to have a peaceful transition and a peaceful transfer of power, and I believe him. And I think that he is committed to doing just that. Now, I'm disappointed, as I'm sure a lot of people are, that he says he's not going to the inauguration. I would hope that he would do that, and we can't question his feelings, but at the same time, there are times when you have to go through the motions, and I wished he would do that. But nevertheless, that's his decision. But I'm confident we're going to have a peaceful transfer of power, and I think we're going to be fine 9 days from now when we have a new administration, and Joe Biden is going to be president, and Kamala Harris is going to be vice president, and the electoral votes have been certified, and they will be in the White House.
I've been in this position a long time. I got a favorite saying that politics ruins friendships. Where's the relationship right now between the president and the vice president? Because it looks like it's very strained at this point.
Well, from everything I've heard, it is strained. And, it was obviously it was this whole process with the certification and everything that took place, the pressure, if you will, supposedly that the president put on the vice president. I think the vice president's a very honorable man, and he's not going to do anything that the Constitution does not allow him to do, and we understand that, and you certainly respect him for that. But they've had a good relationship over the past 4 years. Look, we can make it through 9 days, and they can make it through 9 days, and we just need to just get past this and move on. And I'm very concerned about what's going to happen in the next 2 years when we have Democratic control or one-party control of the House, the Senate, and of the White House. I don't think that that's good. I think that a divided government is better for our government, but we'll just have to do the best we can.
Democrats pushing for impeachment. Several Republicans are on board with that. That's not going to take place, is it? I mean, I think it's going to take place where the Democrats have control, but once it goes to the Senate, you don't see that going anywhere, do you?
Well, I'm going back up this afternoon. I'm at home right now, but I am going back up this afternoon, and we've got votes this afternoon or tonight. We've got a vote at 7:30. We'll vote on the rule. The majority party is trying to implement the 25th Amendment, and the rule will be voted on tonight, and then we'll later on in the night we'll vote on that after we pass the rule, or after the majority party passes the rule. Then it'll have adoption of that, and that'll, from what I understand, they have the number of votes, but the vice president's not going to do that, I don't think, unless he changes his mind between now and then, but he's indicated that he's not. And then tomorrow, from what I understand, we'll be voting on the article of impeachment that has been passed through the Judiciary Committee. And according to what I'm hearing and what I'm reading, what we discussed in our conference call yesterday with the Republican members, the Democrats do have the necessary 218 votes for the article of impeachment. But, it's I wish we wouldn't do this. I really wish that we would just pause. I wish that we could take a deep breath, take a step back. I get it. I understand that the Democrats are upset, and they're upset about what happened last Wednesday. I'm upset about what happened last Wednesday. Last Wednesday was one of the saddest days of my life. What happened at the Capitol saddened me and angered me. As I said earlier, I had a multitude of emotions that I went through during that time. But let's face it, this will be the second time they've tried to impeach this president. They've never accepted results of the 2016 election. And aside from whatever kind of actions this president has displayed, and I don't agree with all of them, obviously, but aside from that, the Democrats have not accepted him, and they've been trying to get him out of office since day one. And look, we got 9 more days. Let's just step back. He's committed to a peaceful transfer of power. We can get through these 9 days without having to go through this.
Where's Mitch McConnell these days? I saw his wife. She had a cabinet position. She resigned. A lot of people had cabinet positions. What do you make of that? All the people that resigned in the last several days, just leaving Washington and resigning from this for their positions. What do you make of that?
Well, Elaine Chao did resign as Secretary of Transportation, and she is, of course, as you indicated, the wife of Mitch McConnell. It's unfortunate, but Betsy DeVos also resigned. We had the Homeland Security, Chad Wolf. He was acting director, and he has resigned as well. That's not unusual at the end of an administration, but what is unusual is that they all three indicated that it had to do with last week, and the president's comments, or perhaps lack of comments, and lack of trying to stop what was going on. It's unfortunate, but we have to move on. As I said earlier, 9 more days, and then hopefully this will be behind us.
Hey, buddy, we've been talking to you for the last 8 years, and we talked the last several years how this country is just divided. You still see it divided. I mean, a lot of people just won't accept anything that they're having a hard time believing anybody. Who do you believe? You know, they don't believe the media. They don't believe the FBI. They don't believe, I mean, who do you believe these days? And how does this country unite? And how do we come together? Do you have any solutions for that? I mean, you say there's going to be a peaceful transition. A lot of people don't believe that. But even if there is, how does this country heal and come together?
Well, you are right. We are divided. I take exception to those people who say, oh, this is worse than I've ever seen it. You know, Bob, you and Butch and I, we're old enough to remember the 60s and how divided our country was back then. And you know, that doesn't mean that this is any less important that we do come together. We do need to come together, and we need to work on things together. But there are some issues out there that we just can't get past, and I don't know how we get those resolved. Abortion, Second Amendment rights, and you know, in the next 2 years, you're going to see a lot of overreach, I think, on behalf of the Democrats, and there's going to be a lot of pushback on behalf of conservatives to stop what they're trying to do. And you know, look, we all love our country. I've never said that a liberal Democrat didn't love their country. I think they do, and I believe they do, and I know the conservative Republican loves their country. We just got to, you know, we got to get back down on our knees, and we've got to go to God in prayer, and we've got to come together, and we've got to make sure that we get this right, because our children, our grandchildren, they're depending on us to get this right.
You know, everybody wants to be a Monday morning quarterback, but you know, can't be overlooked that the Democrats won both those Senate seats in the runoffs. A lot of people believe all this took place back when the president got Doug Collins to jump in that race against Kelly Loeffler. The Republicans started divided among themselves, fighting amongst themselves, and it just went on from there. Do you see it that way? Is that your analysis of what took place in the state of Georgia?
Well, you know, look, we've known for quite some time that the state of Georgia was changing, particularly because of the Atlanta area. I think it's somewhat ironic that you have a state that has been under Republican control for the last 2 decades, a state that has been well run. We have you know, high quality of life. We have low taxes. We have a government that is, you know, we don't have a lot of debt, and we don't have any debt in our state government. And it's because Republican leadership. We were attracting jobs. 8 years in a row, the most business-friendly state in the country. And all of that is because of the Republican leadership. And what is happening is that we've got a lot of people who are leaving the blue states where they've got high taxes, and where they're trying to escape the politics of that, but they bring their politics with them. And that's baffling to me. I don't really understand that. And it's particularly the case in the suburban Atlanta area. And, you know, we've always said it. We here in South Georgia, and I truly believe it. There are 2 Georgias. There's Atlanta and there's everywhere else. And I don't mean that in a bad sense, but Atlanta, you know, if you're not within shouting distance of the Gold Dome, then, you know, you're in the other Georgia, so to speak. And it's just, it's really baffling to me. I still believe that Georgia is a Republican state. I do believe it's turning purple because of the people moving into Atlanta, but I do believe that we're still a red state. Now, having said that, the question is obvious, then why did we lose those 2 Senate seats? Well, there are a number of reasons, I think, for that. First of all, I don't think the president's rhetoric during the campaign helped a lot. I think it turned off a lot of people. I think that, you know, I'm still upset about the changes that were made to the voting process by the Secretary of State last March. And those changes that he made last March when he entered into a settlement agreement with the Democratic Party, I protested them back in March with a phone call along with other members of the House delegation. I sent a letter back in March along with the other House members in the House delegation. In November, I protested it again. The Secretary of State made significant and substantial changes to the voting process in the state of Georgia without the consent and without the approval of the state legislature. And our United States Constitution clearly says that the state legislatures will do this. And that is important to make sure that we have a separation of the judicial, the executive, and the legislative branch. It is the responsibility of the legislative branch, that is the General Assembly that started meeting yesterday in Atlanta. It is their responsibility to set the voting process.
You know, you just hit the key issue. Many Georgians will never believe that the state turned blue, and they go to the issue of voter fraud and voter discrepancies. I mean, our local representation's already talking about that. You know, they talk about the absentee ballots. I know people in Wayne County here that received absentee ballots, got several in the mail, never requested absentee ballots. So there's a lot of people asking a lot of questions. You know, the president says the election was stolen, so a lot of people believe that. So where do we stand on it? Where do we go forward with these elections? You know, it's sad when people, you know, millions and millions of people don't believe the results of elections.
Well, look, I've never said the election was stolen. I've never said that. I've never questioned the results in the state of Georgia. I do think that Joe Biden won according to the process that was used during this election. My problem is with the process itself. As you indicated, the changes, the substantial and significant changes that the Secretary of State made back in March of 2020 had to do with absentee ballots. He sent out absentee ballot applications to everyone in the state of Georgia. Now, granted, you had to fill that out and you had to send it back in. But the problem was, and Bob, we've talked about this before, my office and other congressional offices were inundated. I mean, we were just flooded with calls from people who said, listen, I've lived here for 10 years. I've lived here for 15 years in this house, and I just got four absentee ballots, not applications, ballots, for people who lived here 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Well, that doesn't build up my confidence that it was a fair and accurate election. In fact, I question it now, and a number of people are questioning that. So, you know, the process that the review that the Secretary of State and the governor ordered to go back and review these, I haven't questioned those. They probably were right. However, all those absentee ballots that went out, and then I'm hearing all this about they went to places that people lived 10 and 15 years ago, and we got other calls. Look, my dad's been dead for 4 years, and he just got an absentee ballot in the mail.
Do you think the state legislature is going to address this issue in the next couple of months?
They have to. And yes, I do think they're going to address it, and they've got to address it. Look, we want as many people to vote as possible, but we want them to be legal votes. I want every legal vote counted, but I don't want any illegal vote counted. And as far as absentee ballots go, you know, in the past in Georgia, you had to have a reason to vote absentee. Now, all you got to do is to send in the application. You don't have to have any reason whatsoever. And you know, how is that any different from mail-in balloting? It isn't any different from mail-in balloting.
Buddy,
it's not at all.
Buddy, I've got a couple of text messages or an email and text message for you if you don't mind. Somebody texted in and says, well, first of all, let me do this one first because it says, please ask Representative Carter about the attacks by big tech on the First Amendment. You know, we got all these big tech companies that are closing down conservative sites on Twitter and Parler and other things. Is that a First Amendment right, or is it the right of the companies to do what they want to do?
It's got to be a First Amendment right. And for them to do this, for Twitter to shut off the president, for Twitter to cut off all of these conservative voices, let me tell you, no wonder the president was so upset about 230 and why we should take that away. And this is not something new, and it's not something that just the Republicans have been talking about. The Democrats have been just as upset about this as well. And I tell you, I've been on a panel. I've been on the oversight committee when we had Zuckerberg and we had Twitter and the representatives from all of the big tech companies before us. And I told them clearly, look, I don't want the federal government to have to monitor you. I don't want us to have to step in. I don't want to stifle innovation. But if you don't clean up your act, we're going to have to do it. And you don't want us to do it. Well, they just did. Evidently, that went in one ear and out the other because they have not done it at all. And I don't see where we've got any other choice now except to address it. especially after this latest stunt that they pulled when they've taken the president off, when they started doing all these fact checks supposedly and putting up messages that this may not be true or this may be true. Freedom of speech is the most important right we have in this country. And for them to take that away, they have obviously overstepped their bounds.
Yeah, who makes the decision on what's right and what's not? The big tech companies. You got about 4 of them in the United States that control so much of the information flow, and information is powerful. Do you think any antitrust issues may be brought up with them, like there were with the big oil companies and other big steel companies and that around the turn of the 19th century?
No question about it. We've seen what happened with Parler. And that Apple was the one that pulled the platform for them, and then all of a sudden they're out of business. And it is upsetting. It is concerning, and it's got to be addressed. And we've got to address it in Congress.
All right.
And breaking them up, and when they've got too much control, that's what needs to happen.
Somebody wants to know, says, please ask Congressman Carter to give contact information. I guess they want to send you some comments or questions.
Sure. First of all, they can call our offices, and we've got offices in Brunswick as well as in Savannah. Welcome to call those offices. The number in Savannah is 912. Here we go.
No one remembers phone numbers.
Yeah, I know.
They just hit some on their phone.
That's right.
You can Google it, folks. Just Google Congressman Carter's office in Savannah, and it'll be right there.
But it is 912-352-0101. And then, of course, in Brunswick, it's 265-0910.
Buddy, can I ask you about the vaccine? There's a lot of concern about the vaccine. People are frustrated. They're calling for appointments. They can't get through the number. Just got a report from the Southeast. They're putting everybody on hold and said it's full till the end of March. How do you see this distribution going, and how can it be done a little bit better? And who's organizing it? And your thoughts overall on what's going on the last couple of weeks here with the vaccine?
Well, the rollout has not gone, I think, as well as we had hoped. We were hoping to have more vaccines out by this time. And certainly the distribution is important. And that was always one of the things that we were focusing on, is to make sure we could get these vaccines out and make sure we could get them administered. The distribution and administration, were just as important as the development of the vaccine. And we all understood that, and that was part of Operation Warp Speed. I think they've been disappointed at some of the distribution. The states have a big part in it, and certainly that's been a problem with some states more so than others. But getting the vaccine out and making sure that it's distributed, that is something that we've got to get corrected, and we've got to get it corrected as soon as possible. I will tell you this, though, Bob, and one thing that I'm concerned with is the number of people who are not getting the vaccine, who are choosing not to get it. Vaccines are the single most greatest innovation that we've ever had in medicine. They have saved lives and saved more lives than any drug or anything else that we've had. They are just great. And listen, this is a safe and effective vaccine. As you know, I've been vaccinated myself through clinical trials, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and I believe it is safe and effective. It is not mandatory. You do not have to take it, but I do hope people will take it, and I hope that they will get it and that they will have confidence that it is safe and effective, because it is safe and effective.
One final question, buddy. You've always been someone who's tried their best to reach across the aisle and, find common ground, with the smooth transition, if it does take place and Democrats have control. Do you have people up there, on the Democratic side, that you can work with? Do you see things getting done, or do you think it's just going to be total gridlock?
Oh, sure. We do work together, especially on the Energy and Commerce Committee that I serve on. Energy and Commerce Committee, the oldest, most diverse committee in Congress, most important committee in Congress, I might add, but nevertheless, all the legislation. I was on the phone yesterday with a Democrat. We're coming up with. We came very, very close to getting the Blocking Act passed last year, and unfortunately, it didn't. It didn't make it across the finish line. But now we're talking about making it even better. I work with Lisa Rochester Blunt out of Delaware. She and I work on this. Robin Kelly and I have worked on legislation together. Both of them are Democrats. I've worked across the aisle with so many people. And that's what really bugs me the most is that, probably, Bob, 65, 70% of everything we do is bipartisan. But it's those big issues, like I mentioned earlier, health care, abortion, Second Amendment rights. Those are the ones that the media focuses on. And no, we don't agree on that. And I don't know, we try to find common ground in there, but, with abortion, there's not common ground. I mean, there's just, in my mind, there's not. I mean, it's wrong.
Right.
And that's just a difficult issue. But there are other things that we can find common ground on and that we do find common ground on.
Buddy, again, we do appreciate the time. Again, you're always welcome here on the Butch and Bob Show.
The first vote.
But again, I'm glad you're safe. When you go back to Washington, stay safe. And we'll watch the next 9 days, see how they play out. And again, you're always welcome here on the world famous Butch and Bob Show, but we deeply appreciate it.
Buddy, we need to have you back on soon. Maybe Bob can line that up right after the inauguration, because we've got text messages coming in left, right, forwards, and backwards here, and we're out of time to be able to ask those. And then, of course, there'll be some other issues that'll come up after the inauguration when the Democrats are in power with the Senate, the House, and the White House. Maybe we can have you back on soon. But we are glad that you're safe. I know that must have been quite an experience last week, but I'm glad that Bob was able to reach out to you and have you on the air this morning. And we would like to tell everyone that this broadcast, as all Butch and Bob shows, are podcast on our website at bigdogcountry.com, bigdogcountry.com. Just click on B&B Show, and you'll see today's on there, and then you can listen back to the show. But, buddy, take care, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Butch, thank you. And if I could, I just want to ask everyone out there to please be praying for our country and for our leaders in our military.
Okay.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to y'all. Thank you.
Take care. Congressman Buddy Carter right here on WIFO 105.5 FM in Jessup. And Bob, it's great that Congressman Carter was able to call in.
Yeah, I appreciate him. Like I said, he's a busy man. A lot of people want his time, especially with what's all going on. But I appreciate him taking time being here on the show today. So, and again, I'm sure after the inauguration, we get him back on as well. As you mentioned, there's a lot of people, a lot of questions, so we'll try to line those up. And but he did give his number, so again, he's pretty accessible. I say it all the time. We're fortunate. Same with our state representation. I mean, they want to hear from their constituents, and Buddy Carter's the same way. So if you reach out to him, I'm sure he'll get back with you.
Okay. And we look forward to having him back on soon. We got text messages. I'm sorry, folks, I wasn't able to get all the text messages and emails that we got in. Text messages, I only received one email. That was from yesterday. The rest of them have been text messages this morning. But he's got things that he has to do, and then he's got to fly back to Washington, D.C. this afternoon and be ready for that vote tonight up there. And just going to be a very interesting next several days up there in Washington, D.C. from today all the way through the inauguration. Bob? What about go SEC, man? Bama just whipping up on Ohio State. Whip up on them boys.
Ohio State got a tough break. Their star running back went out, but I don't know if it made a difference. Ohio State secondary just couldn't play with those receivers, and that's been a problem with a lot of teams. I mean, we mention all the time the difference between Alabama and most teams is that speed at wide receiver. I mean, they find them. Waddle was able to come back and help a little bit, but Devontae Smith just put on a show. Normally it's kind of, historically, the Heisman Trophy winner doesn't really play well in the championship game.
That's true.
Devontae Smith,
he put on a show.
He put on a show the first half. Unfortunately, he hurt his hand in the second half, going to play, but just a phenomenal athlete. And, they made a good comment. Watch that kid play. He plays it the right way. There's no showboating. There's no trash talking. He just goes out and makes plays.
Or Devontae Jones and then Devontae Smith and Mac Jones. Those two were not really stars when they first started off at Alabama. Right. Both of them had, the quarterback worked his way up through the practice squad.
Right.
And
he was behind Tua and all that.
Yeah, he was behind Tua and all that. I mean, and then, but he used to, what I understand, he used to kind of jab at Saban, Coach Saban, quite a bit during the practice because he'd be ripping up their secondary, playing the other quarterback, and then Devontae was just an average receiver, but worked hard every single year to improve himself to where he wins the Heisman. Just shows you what hard work and dedication, it pays off.
And we said it all throughout this year. I've never seen a team with 3 Heisman Trophy candidates on the same team. They get that 3-headed monster. Don't forget Najee Harris, that running back, who had a great game last night as well. But you got Najee Harris, Devontae Smith, and Mac Jones, all Heisman Trophy candidates on the same team. I mean, that's
something else.
I don't know if I've ever seen that. And I said I'm 61 years old. I've watched college football my whole life. I've never seen a team with 3 Heisman candidates on the same football team.
Clay Travis has said that this is the best Alabama team that Nick Saban has had, and he's had some great ones in the last 12 years. But that's according to Clay Travis, who is a sports commentator and has the morning show on our AM station, AM 1370 Fox Sports Radio.
All I know, it must be nice to be an Alabama fan to win a championship every other year.
Well, we won another one.
And be in the hunt every year. So.
I'm still holding on to that 12-0 mug that I got back from 1981.
Can somebody tell Saban there's something called a retirement? Can you please step aside, let somebody else know?
Well, someone just texted in, Bob, and says, did you know University of Georgia is the only team to have the lead at halftime against Alabama?
Don't bring the lead up. We blew the lead. Don't bring that nightmare game up. I can still see Tua throwing that. I mean, that game went to overtime. Georgia should have won the game, had the game won.
Someone just texted and said
Tua for a 20-yard loss, and he comes up and throws a bomb. So that's a nightmare game.
But we did have the lead at halftime, the only team all season long.
We don't get any brownie points for that.
No, we don't get. We don't play just a half.
They don't give you a trophy.
We won the first half. They won the second half. Okay.
That doesn't make me feel any better.
It doesn't make me feel any better. But someone just texted in. You saw the GOAT of college football teams, which is the greatest of all time.
Well, I mean, it's amazing because they talk about how great LSU was last year.
I think LSU was. And I would love to see this year's Alabama, last year's LSU team play.
They showed the stats. They're pretty much similar. And Mac Jones put up numbers in the championship game that Joe Burrow did last year. So, his kid has a bright future. So it'll be interesting where he gets in the draft.
Yeah, it will be.
But the sad thing for all other SEC schools was to hear that Nick Saban just had his best recruiting class ever.
Best recruiting class ever. So they don't rebuild, they just reload.
He has a lot of talent already coming back from the team last night. So good luck, SEC.
Come on, dogs. Let's get in there.
Like I said, Saban, there's 6 NFL jobs. You might want to go back to NFL.
Take one, Saban. Get out of the SEC.
Come to Jacksonville. We'd love to have you.
Let's get them out of town. Get them out of Dodge. Get them out of Tuscaloosa.
Do something other than keep on coaching college football.
Yeah. All right, Bob, we got to go. All right, we had so many more other text messages concerning the Georgia and the Dogs and the football and that kind of stuff. Long as we did with a lot of text messages left over from Buddy Carter's time with us, but sorry, we're time constricted here. All right, 105.5 FM in Jessup, world famous Butch and Bob Show, brought to you by Murphy Builder Supply, Damon's Famous Fingers and Wings, Local Boys Construction, and First Southern Bank.
World famous Butch and Bob Show.